everybody, it is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. Welcome back to another episode of the old, the new, and the awesome. I'm hoping that we can bring you guys a little bit of fun and excitement while the proverbial sky is burning. But yeah, we're going to cover that a little bit too today. So anyway, of course, the team is here. Cammie is here. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Stacy is here as well. Stacy, great to see you as always.
Hey.
And Gina sporting her Mighty Ducks jersey, and I think I know why she's doing that today. How are you, Gina?
I'm good.
Good. All right. So just in case you're new here, let's just say welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. And if you've been enjoying our show so far since we began this little shindig back in 2001, I hope you're ready for tonight's episode because this may be the shortest month of the year, but goddamn, there's going to be a lot to talk about. And we're going to start off with our hot topic. And it's a very interesting decision to make today because it's going to incorporate a lot of what's been going on pretty much for the beginning of this year leading into what's been transpiring in the last couple of days. So, Gina, I know that you're relatively new here, and I know that you're not really someone that likes to get into politics, so we are going to be getting into that tonight. So, we are going to let you say whatever you want to say. Even if you just want to break the tension with something extremely funny, have at it. But it's going to be a very interesting question because it's been a topic of discussion that we've all been having, whether we are people who are very involved in politics or just some people that just are trying to scream at people, get your politics out of my popular culture. We've had this culture war going on for almost half a decade at this point in time, maybe already half a decade, but I'm starting to see interesting things taking place, particularly since the COVID pandemic. I have to admit that. So I just want to start off by asking the general question. Is the left actually winning the culture war battle? Before I open it up to the floor, I am just going to give my own 2 cents here. At a time, I think the answer was yes. But in recent years, especially during the COVID years, I think the best way to explain that the answer is actually no is the fact that one of the most liberal of liberals in popular culture, Bill Maher, is literally going to war with his political party, with the far left, and he's basically saying we were something that was actually thought-provoking, people that were actually willing to listen to the other side, people that actually had a brain in their head, and yet it seems to me that I am the only one on the liberal end that still makes some fucking sense. That's basically what he's saying, to the point where in just about 3 weeks ago, he was saying during his show, people were saying to me, why are you suddenly criticizing the left like this? It's like, you never did that before, to which he says in his own words, well, that's because I never had so much material to work with. You just keep giving me comedy gold here. So when someone like Bill Maher is literally telling his peers, you guys are losing your minds, and it seems to me that the nuts are running the insane asylum, I personally feel that that is a big thing taking place. And another thing that's been taking place recently is the fact that cancel culture, especially in the Twitterverse, doesn't seem to be working anymore. They were trying to cancel Dave Chappelle because of his last comedy special on Netflix. And what did Netflix do? They gave him a contract for 3 more specials. So I think this is a big sign that's happening right now. And unfortunately, with what's just been happening in the last 24 to 48 hours with this brand new war that we're suddenly living in, yeah, we're actually living in wartime to a certain degree right now. The leftists seem to be trying to find ways to hide and cover their tracks. So Cammie, I know for one thing you have a lot to say on this matter. So I'd like you to open it up, and I'm pretty sure that Stacy is going to fire right back because the text messages that you guys, I got to admit, I was watching all your texts today, and I really didn't want to get on my phone and say, guys, shut the hell up. I'm trying to work here, but I'm not that kind of guy. But I was looking. Clearly, there's a lot on both of your minds, and I'd like the both of you to talk about it.
Well, I try to stay neutral to some degree because I'm a hothead and I can easily get off track. I can easily get fired up about things. You know how I felt. I mean, I could take this back to June, July of last year, when, well, shoot, wait, we're in 22. Let me take this back June, July of 2020. Shit, I'm losing track of time here. Since the whole thing kicked off, I guess you want to say, the signs were there as early as January, February for me of 2020, seeing that there was a huge shift in the air. And so we all watched the world crumble. We watched a lot of things come to the forefront, a lot of things come to the table for discussion. There were things that changed for the better, and then there were things that changed for the worse. Being home and isolated for a lot of people was very damaging because it gave, as they say, idle hands, idle time. And so people basically took to social media and expressed all of this frustration. And the frustration wasn't even necessarily geared towards anything specific. I mean, at the time, yes, if something was being heightened in the media, let's rage about this. And rage is really the word I like to use. But it was that was for everything. But the problem is people don't do their homework. They just piggyback off of somebody else's post or somebody else's idea or opinion or thought and theory. And then it kind of catapults into this, well, cite your source kind of thing. And then as soon as you start throwing facts at somebody that disagrees with you or has a difference of opinion, they just shut you down and go into hiding or delete you or block you or screenshot your socials and tell everybody that you're evil and you're on the wrong side of the fence and they should cancel you. Guilty, happened to me. So my thing here is communication went out the window in 2020. I think what's happening now in 22 is people are waking up and saying, hey, it was all well and good that social issues were brought to the forefront because idle minds and idle time brought us idle hands that allowed for us to start speaking up about things that were bothersome, which is great. But now let's start to have a real conversation. If you have a side, if you have an idea, if you have an opinion, instead of just spewing hate, instead of just causing additional division, come up with a solution, because if not, then you're just part of the problem. So we've shifted to this communication. And then now you also have where people are not just sitting idle anymore and taking it. They're like, hold on just a second. You want to cancel me for whatever reason? Chappelle is a great example. Then you also have someone like Chevy Chase who's saying, hey, I am who I am. If you don't like me, don't follow me. Don't watch my movies. Don't support me. That's fine. But I'm not going to change who I am at 80 years old to accommodate you and your opinions, So I think what people are seeing now is what we tried to do in 2020 isn't working because we're not talking. We're simply siding up, whether it's a leftist or a rightist thing, if it's a red thing, a blue thing, if it's a male thing, a female thing, or an in-between thing, whatever the case may be, whatever the topic at hand is, that neutral ground, that gray area is not a place that people can rest anymore. And people are having to have these conversations. And that's what's causing people, in my opinion, these abilities to kind of change their narrative. And some are disappearing, some are changing sides, some are trying to pretend they never said what they said. As someone who went through the gambit of hell in 2020, 21 for my own opinions that I shared amongst what I thought was a safe place, I'm very happy to see that we're coming back full circle now, that people are fighting back, that people are not laying idle anymore and being quiet, that people are saying, hey, enough is enough. be opinionated, have an opinion, pick a side, whatever the case may be, but stop spewing hate. If you don't have anything logical or any kind of merit to add to the conversation that's going to progress this instead of just regress or keep us in this useless bubble, then shut the fuck up, because we're tired of listening to you. And that's a beautiful thing.
Amen.
Yeah, I agree. I think people are sick and tired of it, and they are standing up more than they did the first few years this all started. I think, people were terrified of the mob in the beginning, but I think people now are growing balls and standing out against it and saying, screw you, you're actually the mean one, it's not me. And so, yeah, I agree with that. And I hope we see more of that going into the future, people standing up for themselves and not apologizing. That's the thing. We need to stop apologizing when we didn't do anything wrong. And yeah, so I don't know if I would say the right or left is winning. I would say I still see a huge number of people, especially on the left, who are unwilling to look at facts. And so
I agree. I agree with you with what you just said. You said something very important. You said, I don't think the left or the right is winning. The truth of the matter is, I think that common sense and logic are finally starting to win. And for me personally, there was one specific thing that happened in popular culture that actually made me feel so happy. And I felt like sanity was returning in some shape or form. Let me ask a general question to the three of you. Have you heard, or did you even bother to see, the trailer for Showtime's new documentary, Everything is Going to Be All White?
No.
Okay, so what was this? This was basically a mixture of white savior producers and extremely angry people of color trying to basically make a documentary that says that white is bad and everything else is good. And of course, there's even supposed to be a little thing like critical race theory and the 1619 initiative thrown into there. And the trailer hits Showtime's YouTube channel. The first, and of all times for this documentary to start airing, it airs on the weekend of Valentine's Day. Can you believe that? So, plain and simple, another thing that was very, very interesting is the fact that the dislike amounts on YouTube are now officially taken away. You actually have to use a Google add-on if you want to actually see the dislikes. So, the trailer airs on Showtime on their YouTube channel. They actually had comments available, but there was a slew of thumbs downs and so many people, like we're talking tens of thousands of people saying this is not helping, this is divisive, this is going to divide people, not unite, this is, and the one thing, this is racist, this is racist, this is racist. To the point that it was overwhelming Showtime that they removed the comment capabilities, and they even allowed you to watch the first part of the documentary on their YouTube channel for free that weekend. But here's the coup de grace here. There are trailer reactions on YouTube for this documentary trailer from people of color who are YouTubers, and they are pissed at this trailer. They were like, oh my God, this is disgusting. There were, and I feel so bad, there were Black YouTubers that were saying, I am embarrassed to be a Black person right about now. This is disgusting to me. So I'm just looking at all of these reactions and all of this unification through this divisive piece of film work. It was a breath of fresh air to actually see people of all shapes and colors saying, this is bad. This is very bad. Maybe this, yeah, maybe this would have been a success in 2016 when Orange Man Bad got elected. But the fact that now people are saying no, and the same thing is happening to Amazon, with that new Lord of the Rings series. Like, people are saying, oh my goodness, what are you doing? And that's what's really funny. The logical people and people who are just fed up with identity politics and this division and all of this country infighting in a time, especially now, when we really need to be setting aside our differences and being more concerned about our neighbors and our families. Because let's face it, we're all, unfortunately, even though I'm still going to say we're living in the best place in the world right now, but we are all suffering at the pocketbook. Gas is expensive, mortgages are going up, groceries are expensive, and things are going to keep going up and up and up, because now the left is basically saying, blame Russia for this because it's their fault. No. First of all, it's the politicians who are saying blame Russia. It's not just Putin's fault, okay? I'm going to say he's not part of the solution, but no, it's all of you. All of you need to put your big boy and big girl pants on and actually get in front of cameras and say, we made a mistake. We're sorry. Apologize to us.
They really need to own this.
They need to own it.
But to piggyback off what you just said, Steve, you're saying that now is the time to come together. No, I disagree with you. We should have came together at the start of the pandemic. That was a perfect opportunity for us to unite as people, as human beings, because we were all at home. We were all going through the same trauma, the same fears, the same unknown, and we had an opportunity to do good with each other. We had an opportunity to use our keyboard for the better, greater good of humanity and connect with people who were depressed, who were isolated, who were alone, who were going through financial hardships, who were suffering at the hand of injustice situations, you name it, we could have run the gambit. And that was the time for us to come together. But we decided as a nation that was a great time to draw the big divide. And so now we're here. And now the people that are left with common sense are saying, okay, enough is enough. If humanity is going to carry on, we need to put down the torches. We need to come together and we need to start coming up with some viable solutions, because it's very clear to me that's not the agenda of the left. That's not the agenda of the right. So we are the people, for the people, by the people. We need to start delegating some choices for ourselves and not leave this into the hands of the government. And I think that's really what it's come down to, is there is zero trust in our government, in our political system, in our judicial system, and the way the world is being handled. So now people are saying, if we're going to make it through this, we're going to have to join hands, join forces, and come together, or we are not going to make it. And now we've got a global crisis on our hands, because we might be going to war. So enough is enough. And I think all of the people are saying, that's it. We're done with the bullshit. We're done with the celebrities. We're done with the athletes. We're done with people who have no fucking clue what they're talking about. Now let's talk to the people where it matters. The people whose mortgages are 3 times the amount that they used to be. The people who are getting evicted from their homes. The people that can't afford to eat 3 square meals a day anymore. The people who haven't held a serious job in 2 years. The people that are working 2 and 3 and 4 jobs just to make it work. That's the shit that matters. And that's the shit that I would like to talk to people about, because that's all I care about. Humanity. And I've been saying this since 2020.
You
since
have.
the torch was lit underneath my ass because I voted for Trump. And simply put, I have always said, kindness first, compassion. If you can't be kind, then be quiet.
Well, that's the thing. I think what's also very interesting is there is a massive movement right now when it comes to people who are now running for, whether it's state governments or local governments. It makes me proud to see that there's a lot of blue-collar workers that are trying to run for offices. You want to know what makes me really happy? A lot of angry suburban mothers are running for government, because if there's one thing you don't do is you don't piss off suburban mothers. And that is why Glenn Youngkin is now the governor of Virginia, because his opponent pissed off the suburban mothers. And they're not just, and when I say suburban mothers, no, they're not conservative mothers. They're conservative and liberal and independents. And that's the thing. You take a look at the polls. the Democrats are losing the independent vote right now. So basically, whoever is going to be running, the vote is either going to go to most likely someone who is leaning towards the right, or when it comes to a moderate versus a progressive Democrat, it's most likely going to go to the moderate, or the independents themselves, they're just not going to vote at all. Because like you said, Cammie, nobody trusts anybody. And that's why it's nice to know that when it comes to local governments, that the average person is taking a stand and trying to get to those places where they can actually give a voice to the people who are fed up and are not getting their voice heard by the elites, because that's really what it is. You know something? Trump said he wanted to drain the swamp and he wanted to get rid of the elites. Well, to be fair, he was an elite himself. Now, granted, he did good things for the economy. I'm never going to deny the fact that I thought that his economic policies were great. My problem with him is the fact that because he is who he is and he has no filter, he just rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, even though I knew he was doing a decent job where it counted in the areas that were a concern to me. But what we need is someone who has that economic sense of know-how like he did, a real business mindset, but someone who is just not in that upper echelon group of people. We need the average American to start running for political offices again, because that's where
they don't have the money, Steve. It costs millions and millions of dollars to
I
do
know, but you know something, Stacey, you're not wrong at all. Of course you're right. But the truth of the matter is, you know, think about that 80-year-old guy who was this blue-collar truck driver, and he ended up becoming one of the state representatives in New Jersey or something like that. It's because of the fact that he went up there and he spoke the truth. That's really what it was. He didn't get many endorsements, and he still won because the people were just fed up with the elites. They were fed up with the politicians. They don't want that anymore. You know, now I'm not saying that it's the right way to go, and I'm not saying it's the wrong way to go, but I think Cammie and I are agreeing here where the voice that needs to be heard is the voice of reason, the voice of the people, and not the voice of a select few. And I think that's what we're seeing right about now. And we're seeing, I mean, look, aren't you all just like kicking? Gina, I'm not sure if you agree with us or not, but please, if you just smile and nod if you agree. It's nice to know that Alec Baldwin doesn't seem to be in a safe place anymore. Because remember when Trump first got elected, he was saying everything and anything that he could. Everybody was like sucking his dick because everybody believed him. No. He's not in a safe space anymore. For all we know, he's going to get so many lawsuits. This guy may declare bankruptcy, and then he's going to finally realize what it's like to be down with people like us.
He should be in jail.
Right.
There's a chance he might be. There's a chance. Well, you know something, I'll tell.
As a person who promotes gun ownership, I'll tell you what he did was super fucked up, and he needs to be in jail.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, you know, one of the funny things that I'm noticing is, you know, people who are yelling at other people and like calling people bigots and calling people racist, you know, those people are now really starting to be ignored because, like I said, everyone who hadn't woken up just yet, and I'm not even going to say the term woken up, the people are finally starting to get common sense back. And I think it's also because of the fact that we have been isolated for so long and we're trying to be social again. I mean, I still think that there is a lot that we learned from having to do what we did for the last 2 years. I think that there are some things that we should stick to, like, I don't know about you guys, if you can continue to work from home, if you had a job that you could easily do from home, because quite frankly, I had a conversation with my boss a couple of weeks ago, and he's the type of guy that wants to go back to the office because he feels he gets more done in the office. And I said to him, listen, sir, I understand where you're coming from, but I've got to agree to disagree with you, because he said to me, you really actually are more productive from home? I'm saying, well, think about it this way, sir. I'm not spending 2 hours of my day to come to the city to work. And number two, I'm not spending all that money to come into work. And you know for a solid fact that whenever you need something from me, regardless of where I work, I'm like, I could literally be doing my work in the car and I'm still getting the work done for you when it needs to get done. So there hasn't been any pressure for me to go back to the city. And the mayor of New York City is literally saying you can't live in your pajamas all day. You got to get back to work. But the funny thing is, 60% of people who used to work in an office building who have been able to do their jobs from home for the last almost 2 years are saying, why should I come back? There's no need for me to be back. So I'm hoping that we take some things away from what we've learned. I think that the funny thing is, and I remember this when the pandemic first started, I was saying, I'm wondering how many people didn't wash their hands after they used the bathroom before COVID, you know? There's a sense of practicality now that we've inherited through the pandemic. And it's nice to see that the numbers are really dropping at this point in time. But we also have to say, you know, it's great that it's going in one direction, but for all we know, it could go in another direction. But between me and you guys, I don't think that that's the case, especially considering the fact that the variant of the Omicron, which is the variant of the variant of the variant of the variant, it's literally watering itself down to the point where it's literally burning itself out at this point in time. So if that's what's going to end up happening and continues to go in that direction, I'm happy.
I do have something to say on that, because I think, again, going back to the narrative that was created back in 2020, trying to get, you know, people on the bandwagon, I think that, and surprisingly, it was Bill Gates that just came out with this stroke of genius comment that he made. I was like, wow, I'm sorry, did that just come out of your mouth, sir? You know, because he's been hell-bent on being a left supporter for the longest time, and he just came out of this bubble all of a sudden and made this comment that, you know, it made sense to push everybody towards vaccines in the beginning because we were kind of trying to herd everybody up like cattle and, you know, just trying to get a grasp on this. And you can't keep forcing people to get this vaccine, because the more you force people, the more they're going to fight it. And the whole thing is this isn't going away. If you look at medical books from years ago, decades ago, coronavirus exists. When you see COVID-19, that means this is the 19th strain of coronavirus. So instead of instilling fear in people, which is what they did back in 2020, let's educate people and help them to understand that this has always been here and it's going to stay here, and variants are going to happen. But the more we continue to isolate and mask ourselves and not socialize, then we are not allowing our immune system to do what it does best, and that is be exposed to things so we can fight things. So again, you know, I'm not trying to make this, I'm right, I'm, you know, medically capable of giving you medical advice. This is just simply taking a comment that Bill Gates made and my own personal opinions and mashing them together. We just need to stop leading in fear. And that is the way our media works. And when I say media, I'm talking about all the major networks. They push out these stories and we all know what clickbait is. We all know what that big flashy, you know, news headline looks like. But the problem is I think that, I think it's always been in our media, but I think that now people are seeing that media is part of the problem. They cannot be trusted. They cannot be held accountable for things that they're throwing out and spewing out that are not true. I said not accountable. They have to start being held accountable for things that they're spewing. You know, you cannot give false information to the general public. You cannot instill fear in people and expect that people will follow you. Are there lemmings out there? Yeah, absolutely. There are people that are going to believe everything they read, everything, but stop. Just stop doing that. Understand that the media is owned by corporate giants, and those corporate giants have an agenda as well. And that message is being bought and paid for. So if that is what you believe, and you're only following the networks that have the same mindset that you do, you're never going to grow. You're never going to think differently. You're never going to be exposed to other people's points of view and opinions, because you're going to be stuck. So watch a different network every now and then. Watch independent news, for God's sake. Read an article that of something that is not, public and mainstream. But for God's sakes, stop instilling fear in people. Start educating people. That's why knowledge is power. I'm so beyond tired.
Boy, Cami, you make me just want to rent a truck and join a convoy. Oh yeah, I am saying this right now. I seriously think at some point in time Trudeau is going to be kicked out of office, because what he's doing in Canada of all places, the friendliest place on earth, he's turning it into a terrible place. I've never visited Canada at this point in time, but goddamn, I wanted to visit Canada more so than I wanted to visit California at this point in time. And my goodness, Trudeau is turning that into such a horrible place. I feel bad for all of these truly, truly nice people. And I love the fact that what they did managed to stick around for as long as they did, because now that once again, the blinders are off. They're showing the true nature of power-hungry elitists. And again, that's just adding a little bit more to the fact that I really believe that the left is literally backing themselves into a corner, and they don't know how to get themselves out of it at this point in time. It's really the right way for me to say it. It's hilarious, because this is something that we all knew was going to come for them sooner or later. And it started with them starting to eat each other alive, because they had no one left to fight on the other side because they canceled everybody. But now, because of the fact that they've even been canceling their like-minded associates to a degree, now they realize that they've got nowhere to go, because now they've basically caused everybody to hate them. But it's fantastic. I'm reveling in it. I am reveling in this.
I'm just frustrated by it. Like the first couple times I get to say I told you so is kind of fun, but after 2 years of me saying I told you so, I told you this was going to happen, it gets really frustrating.
Yeah, I know, I know, Stacey, but also, Stacey, to be fair, you have been dealing with a lot on your plate. I mean, for crying out loud, that busted pipe, when you told me about that, I felt terrible for you.
Well, it's not as bad as it could have been, so it's getting fixed. But yeah, that's the least of my concerns, really, with all the other crap in the world.
I don't know. I just want to close this out, because clearly Russia and Ukraine is on everybody's mind right now, and rightfully so. I mean, I tried to block it out today, to be honest with you, because I was trying to focus on more important things, like the fact that I had to try and lock my new baby into a daycare center, which I did, thank God, because I was getting lectured by my mother and my sister that said, you should have started doing this since the moment you found out your wife was pregnant. And so I'm like, oh, great. Thank you very much, Mom. But the point that I'm making here is that the fact that, again, piggybacking on what Cami was saying in regards to the media, I hate the fact that there are media stations that are seriously trying to scare people in the fact that there's a possibility of nuclear war. I have to be honest with all of you, and if I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong, but I do not believe that even some of the most evil people like Putin, I don't think he's crazy enough to push that button, because I think he knows that if he did something as stupid as use nuclear weapons, he's toast. And I don't mean that people are going to come after him. No, he's literally going to be fucking toast, because nuclear weapons are going to cause problems that are going to come back and bite him in the ass. I mean, I was talking to someone and basically said that if Chernobyl is bombed again, that's it. Russia's off the map officially. It's terrible to think something like that. But, you know, people thought that Donald Trump was crazy when he was talking to the leader of North Korea. But I always said to people, I don't think Trump is that stupid. I believe he's got a brain in that head. And I believe that even Putin's got a brain in his head. And he knows that if he used nuclear weapons, that it was going to cause negative consequences for his own country. That's just the way I feel. I don't believe that he's going to do that. Iran, on the other hand, that's a whole other can of worms that I do not even want to touch right now. Thank you.
Well, if you think about the conversation regarding nukes, I mean, that we take that back to the 60s, and when the heightened of, you know, everybody built the bomb shelter in your backyard kind of thing happened. So the narrative for nuclear war has been there for decades. The thing is that the same thing always happens. When we start playing with Russia, nuclear war comes up again. When we start playing with North Korea, nuclear war comes up again. Iran didn't even come into that conversation until the end of Saddam Hussein, and then it was like, oh, okay, now we're going to talk about nuclear potential in the Middle East. It's always been there. The thing is who's going to pull the you know,
who's going to push the button?
Who's going to push
who's
the button?
Who's going to push the button? Yeah.
To be frank, I think anyone with common sense knows nobody really wants to push that button, because that's really the end of you and everything you've worked for, and every point of your civilization is gone. So that is not the solution to the problem. But the thing with it is it exists. So again, the narrative is fear. Let's drive with fear. And that takes me to the point of Chernobyl. You know, as a reader of the macabre, and Chernobyl being, you know, basically the center of just about every Russian apocalyptic story I've ever read, it's a scary thing. However, I don't believe they're stupid enough to mess with that soil, because that is their own stake at any of their soldiers, their Russian soldiers.
The only person that is crazy enough to push that button goes by the name of Skippy, and he's a cartoon cat. He's the only one that I know that is crazy enough to push that button.
Chernobyl, all that it says to me is that's the carrot dangling over the head, and it's saying, hey, look, we just acquired this piece of land. Everybody's scared now because they don't know what this means. They don't know what we're going to do with it. So again, it's a scare tactic. I honestly don't think they're stupid enough to mess with the soil. I don't think they're dumb enough to put boots on the ground there. I think that honestly, it is just a way to further instill fear into Ukraine and let them know that not only do you not have the capability of fighting back, but now we've acquired a piece of your land. Check. What are you going to do now? And the speed on which they acquired it. I think that it's just basically telling the world, hey, we're not fucking around. We're here. We're not here to play games. We told you we were invading. We told you this was on the map. We told you that these were all the things we were going to do. And guess what? We did them. So again, it's a scare tactic. Now, could I be totally off base and they could just go and fuck things up? Oh, absolutely. I don't know what's in the mind of a Russian soldier's head, and I honestly don't know what the game plan is moving forward.
I know what's in a Russian soldier's head. I know exactly what's in a Russian soldier's head. He's hitting on Ukrainian girls on Tinder. That's what Russian soldiers are doing right now. I'm not kidding. That actually showed up on Fox News today. I shit you not. Russian soldiers are hitting on Ukrainian women on Tinder.
Well, and you have to also look back just a few short weeks ago when they were actually interviewing Russian soldiers. They didn't want to be there. They didn't want to play this game. They wanted to be at home with their families. Nobody wants to be fighting this war right now. Nobody even really understands what the hell they're doing there. So, you know, if we really want to talk about war, you go from the vantage point of a soldier, whether it's Ukraine and Russia, whether it's the United States and Iran. If you talk to a soldier who is deployed overseas fighting on foreign soil, they will all tell you the same thing. I am doing my job. I am doing what I was told to do. This is not where I want to be. I don't want to bomb somebody's home. I don't want to destroy somebody's family. I would rather be home with my kids right now. But this is what I signed up for, and I'm going to do what I'm told because this is what I have to do. So nobody wants to fight a war, but it's a decision that you make when you sign the dotted line. So here we are. And, you know, hopefully this won't be catastrophic. Hopefully it won't end up where everybody's assuming that it's going to go. But every single time Russia or North Korea is involved in some kind of explosion or some kind of miniature war on their own soil, immediately the world goes to, oh, World War III is going to happen. It's the second coming of Christ. Everybody get in your bomb shelter and make sure you've got rations. That's just the way the narrative has been for, 70 years. It's just the way people talk. I don't know. I'm not going to be scared. I'm not going to live my life in fear. I've got to keep going, and people have to have that mentality. And I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's time to come together, because are we going to start beating people up for the last roll of toilet paper on the shelves again? We need to think smart.
So I got a question for you, Gina.
Yeah.
Did you have any intentions to watch the Oscars? Because my God, you saw so many of the Best Picture nominations.
Yeah, the noms came out and I had seen half of Don't Look Up. And then I finished Don't Look Up. Apparently I only had 10 minutes left.
Don't you hate it when that happens? Like, you literally are about to turn the movie off because you had it, and then you realize there's just 10 minutes left. They're like, oh, okay, I'll stick it out for the rest.
Yep, 10 minutes left, and I finished it, and I only had 10 minutes left.
Yeah, I honestly have no intentions to watch the Oscars this year, especially considering the fact that they got Amy Schumer to co-host it. I'm like, oh dear God. You want to know what people wanted? There were rumors that the 3 Spider-Men were going to host it. I would have totally been cool with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland. Thank you. But what they did, for God's sake, the rumor of the Muppets even hosted the Oscars. I would have watched that in a heartbeat. I knew that there were times where people, ever since Betty White, God rest her soul, when she had hosted the Saturday Night Live, there were people that were trying to make petitions for Carol Burnett to host the Oscars. I would have watched that too. Oh my goodness. But no, I don't even think I'm going to watch the Oscars, but I will definitely say that there's a lot of movies that I had not seen that I really decided that I should see. The one movie that I know got nominated for Best Picture that I have not seen yet is Belfast. And I really want to see it because I'm a big fan of Kenneth Branagh as a director. But holy crap, Gina, you saw a bunch. So before
there's still
a
few on my list. There's still a few on my list.
So I want to talk
about
all
the ones that aren't available for streaming yet.
Yeah, exactly. So I got to talk to you about the 2 that we shared that we both watched. So actually 3 of them. So it's not nominated for Best Picture, but Tick, Tick, Boom.
Oh, so good. Oh, I loved it.
I really did enjoy it as well. Did either of you even see it, by the way? You really should.
No.
It's the story of Jonathan Larson, the guy who wrote Rent, and it's about the very first play that he ever made. And Andrew Garfield was fucking brilliant in that movie. I hope he's up against some real stiff competitions in regards to Best Actor, but I really hope that he comes out winning that Oscar because I think he deserves it. My favorite scene in the movie is the scene with the song Therapy. How he's having an argument with his girlfriend, who's played by Alexandra Shipp, and he is singing with, of all people that is in that movie, Vanessa Hudgens. I am so glad that she and Zac Efron, after High School Musical, have actually managed to do pretty well for themselves. But that whole scene is so brilliantly choreographed, along with a really catchy song, that was brilliant to me.
The music's really good. I've had the soundtrack going since I watched it.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent movie. Also, we both ended up seeing Nightmare Alley. I'm not sure if everyone here likes Guillermo del Toro as much as I do. I'm a big fan of him as a director.
It's hit or miss for me, usually hit. But this one was right up my alley because I really like weird old carnival things.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I mean, the actors are, well, first of all, at this point in time, I will see anything with Cate Blanchett in it. The minute I notice that honestly, that's the reason, one of the main reasons why I saw Don't Look Up, because she was in that movie. And I love how she knows how to just lose herself in her characters, going all the way back to her breakout role as Queen Elizabeth. And of course, one of my favorites, Galadriel. Love that movie. Love her in Lord of the Rings. But she was fantastic. Bradley Cooper was fantastic. Willem Dafoe, Ron Perlman, great cast. But For me, noirs are very hit or miss. Sometimes I love them, sometimes I hate them, because like I get so much shit because I hate LA Confidential. I just didn't like it. It's a good movie. I'm not going to deny the fact that it's a good movie. That's one of the few things that I will say. If I hate the movie, I'm never going to say that it's necessarily a good or a bad movie, because everyone is entitled to their opinion. And I know that Stacey will yell at me for hating Full Metal Jacket and Apocalypse Now until the cows come home. But it was good. I didn't think it was, for me, it wasn't Guillermo del Toro's best.
Yeah.
There's so many other movies of his that I love. Pan's Labyrinth is like a masterpiece. That's my favorite movie of his. I love the Hellboy movies. I love the scripts that he wrote for the 3 Hobbit films. I'm a big fan of The Shape of Water. I thought it was worthy of Best Picture. It was great to see him win Best Director, but I'm surprised it's nominated for Best Picture, if I'm being perfectly honest with you.
There's a lot of
I like his
interesting
Funko Pop.
choices for Best Picture.
I like his Funko Pop. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, I didn't even know you had it.
Yeah, I have quite a few actors and or directors, I'm sorry. And he's one of my favorites. He's perfect.
Okay. Okay, Gina, level with me. Power of the Dog.
Okay, listen. I went back into the doc and I saw that you had finally watched it and saw your score. And I went, yeah, I don't really remember much.
Well, the funny thing was, when I first turned on Power of the Dog, I said to my wife, and of course she groaned because it was such a dad joke. And I've been telling dad jokes even long before I found out that I was going to become a father. I said, this movie better at least have one dog in it. If there are no dogs in this movie, it's officially a ripoff. But
That's true.
You know,
the last act really did it for me. I really liked that the slow burn paid off, and I think with a rewatch it'll be really, really good. That said, I honestly don't remember much.
I mean, here's the thing. Westerns are a very interesting kind of movie, especially now, because, you know, if it wasn't for the revitalization of the movie musical, and I would probably say the movie musical, at least the live action movie musical, was revitalized thanks to Damien Chazelle and La La Land. I love that movie. It's beautiful. But the Western is a very interesting animal in film right now because it's such an old genre, and it's just, so I think that the younger generations just don't get it. I mean, it also reminds me of the fact that, did any of you see the Baz Luhrmann Elvis trailer yet?
No.
Okay, I'm just going to tell you all this right now. Watch it. It looks phenomenal. But the thing that's really interesting is the fact that it's not going to grab as many people as you think it will, because unfortunately, we're now getting to a point where younger generations are not being introduced to Elvis Presley's music. It's the right time for this movie to come out. I mean, I think a biopic of Elvis should have come out many, many years ago. But, you know, we're now living in a world where generations don't know who Elvis is. Like, they never knew that he was a phenomenon. Like, he was everything to so many people. And that's what I'm trying to say about the Western. You know, John Wayne, he was the staple of the Western film. And even though he was in just a few of them, I think as he got a little bit older, Clint Eastwood revitalized the relevance of the Western with Unforgiven because it won Best Picture. But it's a very interesting genre, the Western these days, because either it's something that you've been exposed to many, many times in your life. And as much as I love Back to the Future 3, it doesn't really give the Western, you don't really get the true understanding of the Western movie. But it was a very interesting human tale, Power of the Dog. It really gets you to understand the human psyche. And I think what was very interesting about this specific Western is the fact that it takes place during the Great Depression. And as time goes on, you actually see, like, you know, there's those who want to stay and remain being cowboys, like Benedict Cumberbatch's character. And then there are the people like his brother, who's played by Jesse Plemons, who is literally starting to grow with the times, because as the years go by, you see, like, he's the one that buys the grand piano, he's the one that buys the car, and his brother just doesn't want to conform. He just wants to continue herding that cattle and lassoing up those crops. Like, he just wants to be in that simpler time. And I think what's very interesting is the boy, Cody, who's played by Cody Smith McPhee, Phil, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, is trying to take a guy who is very much going further and further into the modern world, going to become eventually a surgeon, and yet he brings him into his fold and shows him the beauty of a simpler time. I think that's really what it's all about. It's human spirit and the human trying to deal with change. I think that's what I got out of that movie.
Yeah.
I think that's really all Westerns though, because you have to think about all the challenges of, you know, the environment and the elements and lack of resource and medicinal and things of that nature. So there's always a lot of trial of the human spirit. You know, how much can one endure to survive, and how much of a survival instinct do you have? So I think that really, to me, is the underlying premise of a lot of Westerns. It's segueing a moment in history. You know, it's saying, I'm here, I'm going to conquer this land, this city, this state, whatever, and I'm going to make a difference. So, but my favorite Western of all time will always be Tombstone. I can watch that every day, die happy.
I think one of the movies that my wife really enjoys, she likes The Quick and the Dead.
I love Young Guns.
You know, that I have not seen Young Guns yet, and I really want to.
Oh my God, Steve.
Both of them
Stacey,
are
I
fantastic.
still need to see Pretty Woman, okay?
What?
What?
I can't with you. I
I'm
can't.
actually watching.
I'm right there with you.
I'm actually planning to watch it for next month's episode. I mean,
Oh
technically,
my God.
okay,
I
well,
will
technically,
watch it.
I kind of sort of saw it because, look, Pretty Woman is just another version of My Fair Lady, which is just another version of Pygmalion.
No, Steve.
I'm gonna slap you. No, do not even compare oranges to apples. No, Pretty Woman stands alone. It's all on its own 2 feet. I don't give a shit what kind of references it has, what it parallels to. It is its own entity. Leave Julia Roberts alone.
I have nothing against Julia Roberts. I have nothing against Julia Roberts.
But trying to compare it to no. We do not compare to My Fair Lady. We let Pretty Woman stand on its own 2 beautiful legs. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Sequins and all.
that's fine. Again, I'm anticipating to actually enjoy that movie, and I'm not necessarily a big rom-com fan, but there are some rom-coms that I have really enjoyed. I mean, like, I still will say thank God my wife introduced me to The Holiday, because that's one of the most adorable movies I've ever seen in my life. But before we get back to some of those Oscar ones, Gina, you saw a movie that my brother-in-law and sister adored. You saw Marry Me.
Yeah, it surprised me. I may have gotten the Peacock Premium, because I didn't want to go waste time in a theater to see it, because I wasn't too sure I would like it. Like, it just seemed weird, like a weird mix of J-Lo and Owen Wilson. So it's like, well, this is gonna be strange, but it was really cute. I really liked it.
My brother-in-law and sister loved it. They had such a good
It
time
was
with it.
really good.
Yeah.
Like, I would
J-Lo
watch it
does
again before.
anything right in her life, it's a rom-com. I
Yeah.
swear every rom-com that stands at the top of my list involves J-Lo. She is so good in a rom-com.
She has good comedic timing. She has
Yeah.
very good comedic timing.
Which, like, I usually like her and I usually like Owen Wilson. They just seemed like an odd mix. And like the whole storyline of them getting married on stage at a whim was just weird, but it all worked. It was great.
That you just mentioned, did you mention Jennifer Lopez? I still actually haven't seen another movie that she was in. It was actually one of her first. I mean, maybe just because I don't really know her, but I never did see Selena, and I know that's supposed to be an excellent movie. So,
Fantastic.
I mean, that's, you know,
Really, honestly, I mean, I always dog on her because, you know, I'm from Texas and I'm a huge Selena fan. I will sing her praises forever. She's, you know, rest her soul, she's one of the best Latina singers ever. But I always have said, had Selena's life not been cut short, I don't know that J-Lo would be the celebrity that she is today, because Selena really paved the way for her to be noticed. She was not in anyone's focal point or on anyone's radar until that movie, and that really, really catapulted her career.
So, okay, so Gina, you're going to have to take the helm here because you saw Coda and you saw Licorice Pizza. I need to know about Licorice Pizza because that trailer, I'm like looking at it, I'm like, what the hell is this? I don't get it. I know there's a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson fans out there. I'm not one of them. So enlighten me, please.
I became a PTA fan about four years ago or so. Kind of watched a good chunk of his films, like the more popular ones, and I really like them. They're really weird and really out there, and Licorice Pizza is really weird and really out there. There's a few little weird kind of Asian racist bits that didn't need to be in there. Like, I get it, it's supposed to be like the 70s or whatever, but it's just unnecessary. But other than that, it was pretty good. Also, the age difference was a little weird, but other than that, it's a pretty fun film. Like,
That's
if
good.
you can just kind of look past the kind of iffy bits, it's very out there, very strange, but also kind of sweet.
Okay, and Coda looks very interesting. It reminds me a little bit of a movie that came out last year that got a lot of Oscar buzz, and that was The Sound of Metal, because it also involved people with hearing disabilities. Sound of Metal was a really, really heavy movie though, but it was very, very good.
The death aspect is probably the only thing they have in common. The Sound of Metal definitely deals with like him as an adult losing his hearing. Coda deals with this teenage girl who's the only hearing person in her family. And so it really deals with her wanting to sing and her wanting to go into choir and wanting to go to college, but her family, her parents, not necessarily her brother thinks they can get along without her, but her parents basically wanting her to stay and be their interpreter because she's the one that goes onto the boat with them. She's the one that deals with all of the hearing people. And so it's very a back and forth. The reviews on Letterboxd, a lot of people, it seems to be you either love it or you thought it was too like mundane almost, like just too not enough plot, I guess people were complaining about, but I loved it. Definitely worth getting Apple Plus for a month for that. But also the M. Night Shyamalan show is back, so
okay,
I'm excited to watch that once all the episodes are out finally, because I watched the first 2 seasons last year because I wanted to watch the Apple Plus movie that was nominated last year, and so I'm excited.
So you basically were streaming all of these movies? That's how you got to see all of these so quickly?
Yep.
Where were all of these streaming? I mean, you said Coda was on Apple TV Plus. Where was Licorice Pizza?
Well, Licorice Pizza, I went to the theater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then Marry Me on Peacock, Pirated Dogs on Netflix.
That's correct.
Coda's on Apple.
Okay.
And then Nightmare Alley is on HBO.
And Tick Tick Boom is also on Netflix.
Yep. Yeah, Licorice Pizza, I had looked because I'd been wanting to see it, and my friend that I usually go see indie films with went without me, but to be fair, he went in December when my schedule was crazy with Polar Express, so like it's fine. But so I was looking to see if it was still in the St. Louis theater that it was out, and then when I looked, since it got nominated for an Oscar, our local theater that we go to where I have the AMC Stubs account finally got it. So
yeah, I went to only see one movie in the theaters, and unfortunately that's going to be the last time I actually go to the theater with the missus. We went to see Death on the Nile, and we really wanted to see it because we both really had a good time with Kenneth Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express. And of course, we're also big fans of a lot of the people that are in the new cast of the film, because you've got Gal Gadot, who plays Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. You also have, oh shoot, her name is escaping me, but she's one of the half of the Ab Fab group. She's awesome. I can't remember her name right now. Letitia Wright from Black Panther's in that movie, and of course Kenneth Branagh.
That's who that was. Okay.
Yeah, but I knew
she was familiar, but I couldn't place her.
But the biggest surprise in that movie for me was Russell Brand.
Right?
Yeah. Because I know Russell Brand is a crazy, outlandish comedian, and I hated him when I first, because like, if there's anyone who is a fan of this movie, I am sorry, but I hated Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Hated it. And he was one of the main reasons why I hated it so much. But I saw him in an episode of the show that was on HBO called Ballers with Dwayne Johnson, which was a really cool show because I love the behind-the-scenes thing in the sports industry, and he played a very interesting character. So to actually see him play this dramatic role alongside all of these great actors, it blew my mind. Like, my wife and I were watching. I said to my wife, I said, "You do know that that's Russell Brand?" She's like, "No way!" Like, she couldn't even recognize him.
I didn't realize it was him until the credits rolled. I kept trying to place him the entire movie. I was like, I know who you are. Who are you? I could not place him until the credits rolled.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my wife
got my heart in Arthur. I really enjoyed him in Arthur.
You know something? I said to my wife literally that night, if there was anyone that could revitalize what Dudley Moore did in the original Arthur, it was Russell Brand. He was the only person I thought who could ever do it as well. I never saw it, but I saw some of the clips, and I'm like, yeah, they're the only way that you could have gotten that movie to do as well, to get it as good as the original, was just bring Dudley Moore back. But you couldn't do that at that point in time, obviously. But we had a good time with Death on the Nile. I think that my wife liked it a little less than I did. She liked the original one more, but I really had a good time with this movie, and I am really wondering if there will be any more. I have a feeling that there may not be, because my wife said the way the film ended made it feel like Hercule Poirot was going into retirement. That's the way she felt like it. But you know what?
Unlike the first one definitely led you to believe that there would be another. But yeah, this one kind of felt final.
It's a shame because there's so many more Agatha Christie, Hercule Poirot stories, and if this one was successful, I don't know why. I personally love Kenneth Branagh as a director. It's one of the main reasons why I want to see Belfast so badly, because this movie might get him the Academy Award for Best Director, and I hope he does win one, because I've seen so many movies of his that I enjoy so much. And as an actor, I mean, come on, he plays Gilderoy Lockhart in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and he's one of my favorite Harry Potter characters. He's the only person that could have played an idiot so beautifully, with so much style and grace.
Speaking of Harry Potter, I want to throw in a last-minute contender for a movie I watched that I think is highly underrated. More people should be watching. I watched Mank on Netflix with Gary Oldman.
Oh, I saw that last year. What a great movie.
It took me 2 times to watch it, and I fell asleep both times.
No, that's one of David Fincher's greatest works. And what I love so much about that movie was that was a story that was written by his dad. That's what I loved about that movie so much. Now, Mank is great. Mank is great.
Fell asleep both times watching it.
Well, what I really liked about it is because, you know, as someone who's been in the last couple of years watching a lot of movies that he knew were great but never got around to seeing, I am now starting to say that the best movies that were made came out between the 1930s and the 1960s. And I feel that Mank was one of those movies that brought you back to the feeling of the golden age of Hollywood. Another movie that I actually saw, I wanted to see for a while and finally got a chance to see because I was able to stream it. I finally saw Trumbo with Bryan Cranston. That's a fantastic film. And I just loved that story about how, again, you know, you think about the paranoia and McCarthyism with the whole thing with the communist movement and whatnot. But I just found it so interesting that even though Dalton Trumbo was blacklisted, there were so many people that basically said, we know that you're good and we need you because you're the only one that can make these movies possible. And he's responsible for Stanley Kubrick's Spartacus. He's responsible for Otto Preminger's Exodus, 2 of the most amazing movies to ever be made, and he never got the credit for it because of the way people thought he was politically.
Gave me Ed Wood vibes. I really just cannot speak highly enough of this movie. I need to find it and own it.
Ed Wood is wonderful. Yeah, I don't think Mank is available on DVD yet, which really, really upsets me because The Irishman is. And that was weird. A Netflix movie. Yeah, because another movie that was a Netflix movie that came out the year that Mank was made, I want a physical copy of The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a great movie.
That's the one thing I don't like about all these like streaming exclusive movies is like I want a copy of Wolfwalkers, which is only on Apple Plus. I don't want to keep Apple Plus, but I want to watch the movie again. So while I have Apple Plus for the M. Night Shyamalan show, I'm gonna watch it again, but I really want the DVD for it.
Yeah, you see,
And
I'm glad to see that there are a lot of people in this room that understand the value of physical media, because you want that. It's something. When I started collecting DVDs, even going back to the time when I was collecting VHSs and CDs and stuff, like my parents never seemed to understand it. But then when the streaming services started to come out, the logic finally started to hit them. I was like saying to them, okay, what's your favorite television show on Netflix? And my mom says, well, I really love Stranger Things. I said, well, then let me ask you a question. Do you want to keep spending $15 a month to rent Stranger Things, or do you want to go to Target and spend $20 to buy the Blu-ray and never have to pay for another time to watch it again?
Yeah.
What would you prefer? That's where I think it finally clicked in her head. Sure, it takes up a lot of space. I mean, look behind me. Look at all this space that's almost used up. But, these are your things. These are the things that you love. These are the things that you handle with care and you preserve and you want to hold on to them, because just in case the streaming wars completely collapse on themselves, and I think we're literally heading in that direction, I want a copy of The Trial of the Chicago 7. I mean, it's Aaron Sorkin's second film that he directed. I would also recommend his first, Molly's Game. That's such an underappreciated film. I really love Molly's Game.
I'm low-key laughing under my breath, Steve, because you said when I used to add CDs and VHS, and I literally just last week added a VHS and a CD to my collection. So
I still buy CDs. I still buy CDs
too. Yeah.
Well, apparently I have a
I play
problem.
CDs in my car.
I also entered a contest last week, which it required me to kind of guesstimate. I mean, I'm sure they would have liked an accurate number of how much physical media I actually have. And wow, talk about branding yourself. I had a moment with myself and I said, wow, you have a problem, Cami. You have a problem. You need to walk away and stop buying physical media. But then I just in the same week after I entered that contest, I had a conversation with the guy at Geek Squad when I went to drop off my laptop, and we both got into a conversation about the importance of owning physical media, because eventually the digital age will implode on itself. So then that redeemed me, and I'm back to buying physical media.
Yeah,
so all is well and right in the world. So
yeah, and then maybe Best Buy will finally start putting physical media back in their stores again, because at this point in time, I don't even want to go to a Best Buy. Speaking of CDs, I just bought a really nice CD a couple of days ago. I finally found it for probably one of the best prices ever, for only like $5. I got the Soul soundtrack.
Nice.
Yeah, and why did I buy it? Because it's the new Nine Inch Nails album. That's basically what it is to me. I mean, it's Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross doing the score. And I love the fact that Trent Reznor, who would have ever thought in a million years, the guy that wrote the Nine Inch Nails song Closer, would not only score a Disney movie, but win the Oscar for scoring a Disney movie.
I don't think I knew that.
Wasn't he the one that also did the score for Mank as well?
I believe so. He's also done the soundtrack for Patriots Day, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, and he was the first industrial metal he was the first metal artist to win an Oscar. He won for Social Network. That was the first soundtrack he ever scored. And I love,
he's extremely talented.
2010 was such a great year because of two specific movie soundtracks, because of who scored them. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross scored The Social Network, and Daft Punk scored Tron Legacy. That is one of the best film soundtracks I've ever listened to. I was so pissed off that they didn't get nominated for Best Score, because I wanted Daft Punk to win so badly. That score is unbelievably good. I guess now is a good opportunity to move into some television, and there's a lot of TV to talk about. Since our friend Stacy has been very quiet, I need her to talk about The Witcher. I want her to talk about, along with Gina, The Legend of Vox Machina, because that's something I keep seeing and I have no idea what the hell it is. And more importantly, she wants to talk about Only Murders in the Building.
Me too. It's so good.
My sister tells me my sister was telling me, have you seen Only Murders in the Building? I'm like, no, but it looks so good. And so I said, what streaming service is it on? She says it's on Hulu. I said, oh, can't watch it. Sorry, I don't have Hulu.
You have to get Hulu.
I don't want Hulu.
Just for that show, it is
Just for that
worth it.
show. Yes.
It is worth it.
It is
Especially,
worth
I
it.
think it's episode 7, the silent episode. Oh God.
I mean, it's
So
a great
good.
cast. I mean, look, it's Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. I mean, when you put Selena Gomez with two comedic legends like those two, like, you never know how it works, but apparently it seems to work.
So good.
Absolutely amazing. And then somebody, please tell me that you've noticed how much, or you've noticed Steve Martin's apartment, and you have to have it. Does anybody have to have it? Not Steve
Yes.
Martin.
Don't
Martin
you
Short.
love that when it comes to sitcoms? It's like you see the apartment and you just wish it was yours. Like I want Leonard and Sheldon's apartment from Big Bang. At one point in time, I wanted Jerry Seinfeld's apartment.
It's so great. You have to watch it. And
looks
The
great.
Witcher season 2 was amazing. We just rewatched season 1 and then season 2. Love it. Cannot wait for season 3 because it ended on a crazy ass cliffhanger. And what was the other show?
Vox Machina.
Yeah, what is that? Because I keep seeing so many things on social media about it.
Based off Critical Role's first campaign.
Ah,
Dungeons and Dragons, Steve.
Yes.
okay.
So my husband used to play Dungeons and Dragons all the time. And so you don't have to understand Dungeons and Dragons. You don't have to, play it or anything to understand the show. But if you had played Dungeons and Dragons, I think you get a lot of like little things in the show that you might not otherwise, because he was constantly pointing stuff out to me like, oh yeah, this is this and that's that. And oh, they're doing this so correctly for like campaigns. But it's a cartoon. It's a cartoon on Amazon, and it's like high fantasy. You've got elves, you got vampires.
The vampire element was great. Zombies at one point.
Zombies, the undead. You've got just a dwarf.
Magic.
It's so good. It's so captivating. The animation
all episodes are out.
The characters are funny.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of crude humor. It's ages 16 plus. So it's
and you said
crude.
it's on Prime?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, because I do have Amazon Prime.
It's just 12 episodes. They're all like 30 to 40 minutes long. It's really easy to just buzz through. It's very fun. It's very fun.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to talk about it too much because the season's not even done, but I just finally am so excited that The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is back for season 4.
I can't wait for the next 2 episodes.
I have been such a huge fan of that show. I mean, I seriously watched that show and I seriously believe, oh my God, this is my family.
I rewatched the first 3 seasons.
I have to rewatch those episodes again because my wife hasn't been
so long.
I know my wife. I'm wondering what everyone is going to be thinking or how everybody's going to be feeling when the 4th season of Stranger Things finally airs.
Right?
I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah, I mean that show has been off the air for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to believe that this past week, Finn Wolfhard turned 20 and Millie Bobby Brown just turned 18, and they're all still playing high schoolers.
Right?
Yeah, well, apparently they announced that the 5th season's the last season, but something it kind of makes sense. I mean, that show couldn't go on forever. I mean, I didn't even realize that His Dark Materials is only going to be on for one more season because it looks like they're really just going to follow the books. So I kind of like that. But,
I haven't watched that yet.
Oh, I highly recommend that.
It's on my list.
Yeah, my wife and I have been watching it since it started airing on HBO. I've got the first 2 seasons on DVD. I love that show. It's that and Westworld are just incredibly good shows. Okay, so that's really cool. Yeah, but Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I watched the first 2 episodes of season 4.
So good.
My favorite line in that first episode was when they were in the cab and Susie says to Miriam, "There's no way you could be funny in Prague." And she goes, "I can be funny in Prague. Hey, Prague, remember Jews?" Like I laughed so hard, but that's just because of the fact that I get it. Like it's the most lighthearted Holocaust joke you'll ever actually hear. But it's terrible, but it makes you laugh.
And they're really good at doing that too, at like making all of the jokes but not making them awful.
Yeah,
like I think that's what makes the show work so well.
Yeah, but speaking of episodes that were only 40 minutes long, that was Peacemaker. HBO Max.
Still haven't watched it. It's on my list.
Oh my God, that
I did watch
show.
the opening though, because you told me to watch the opening. I did watch that.
And what do you have to say about that?
It wasn't what I expected.
But it made you laugh and it made you want to watch more, did it not?
Yeah, it's on my list. I'll get to it.
I just found that so funny because when I watched it was the first 3 episodes that aired originally on HBO Max before they had made the rest of them, the other 5. And I'm watching that first episode and I'm watching that opening sequence and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And why is it so amazing? And the fact that it literally broke the internet because everyone was like so hypnotized by its magic. The fact that you can just go onto HBO Max's YouTube page and watch the opening sequence whenever you want is a stroke of genius. You know, people are trashing Warner Brothers up and down, but at least they know how to satisfy their customers. They're the group that still believes in the power of physical media. Hell, they're still the people that are the firm believers in having people decide to whether or not they want high definition Blu-ray or DVD to buy their physical media in. I like that. But, I liked the Suicide Squad. I like the fact that James Gunn was asked to make the show. I love the fact that he's going to be coming back to do season 2. He also made an announcement that after he officially wraps up Guardians of the Galaxy 3, he is officially off of Marvel for good and he's going to go strictly to DC because he believes that Warner Brothers is giving him more liberties to be as badass as he wants. And that's, when cancel culture came for him, and he was thrown off of the Disney projects, and then he goes and gets signed up by Warner Bros. To do Suicide Squad. You watch the Suicide Squad movie, that's basically him giving Disney the finger. He says, let me show you all the things that I'm allowed to do that you would never let me do in a million years. And then they realize, well, we can't really make a good Guardians of the Galaxy movie without James Gunn, so they begged him to come back. So, no, but he said he's done. He wants to go back to doing DC shows and DC movies because he said he has more fun.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, and John Cena's just, oh my goodness, I'm not a wrestling fan, but I love him. He is so funny. Mm-hmm. As Peacemaker, it's terrifyingly fantastic. Cammy, I don't know if you've watched it yet because I know that you're still you haven't gotten out of the comic book pool yet. You're still swimming. And I don't know when the hell you're going to stop. You are literally pruning right now.
I've been playing Injustice for the past 2 weeks, just trying to finish that game. So that's the deep end of the pool that I'm in. But no, Peacemaker is definitely on my list. Obviously, it made my radar, like many of the things you bring to my attention. But yeah, it definitely captivated me, and I will be diving in as soon as I catch up on my reading because, as you know, I got at least a week's worth of comic books that I've got to dive into that are going to cause a lot of concentration.
Oh,
connecting dots.
Yeah, apparently there was an Injustice Funko Pop that dropped this morning. It was a Injustice Gods Among Us Doomsday.
Oh, yeah, I saw it. I don't want to increase my Funko collection any much more than it is right now. I'm running out of space, and so I have to be very selective. And since I don't have all the other Injustice, I should say Justice League, because that's really where like Darkseid and all of that comes from. I don't have any of those, so I'm not going to start doing video games because then I will basically live in a Funko Pop box.
Yeah. Or are you already living in one and you just don't even realize?
Maybe.
Okay, the other thing, I also watched the Cuphead show on Netflix. I never played the game, but I've watched so many walkthroughs on YouTube. I loved the show. It is nowhere, it's not connected to the video game at all except for the characters, but you want to watch a show that really feels like you're watching a vintage Tex Avery, Fritz Frilling, Chuck Jones cartoon. That's Cuphead. It was great. It was just a big piece of true animation appreciation and nostalgia. That's what the Cuphead show is. 15 minutes an episode. It's a quick watch for each one. 12, I believe it's been, only 12 episodes. I literally got through them in a day and a half. And there's going to be more episodes. It was just awesome. A true trip back in time, classic cartoon feel. Loved every minute of it. Yeah, so I watched, now I've never seen the television show, but I did watch the 1970 Best Picture winner MASH with Donald Sutherland and Elliot Gould.
The show was good.
The movie was pretty good. It was not what I expected it to be. It was a dark comedy. It made me laugh. I really had a good time with it. It was just really interesting how these soldiers just believed that the only way to prevent themselves from going completely insane during the Korean War was just to find ways to relax and be fun and have fun and just be funny. I appreciated that. You know, that's a great way to do that. You know, even though it's a time of sadness, a time of trials and tribulations, the fact that you still manage to try and have a smile on your face is important. So the Mighty Ducks turned 30 this year, and you know what? It's still a great movie. I watched it again for the first time in a while.
I watched it this morning because I stayed home because of ice.
Oh yeah, we're getting ice tomorrow apparently.
We've gotten ice every Wednesday and Thursday this month.
Wow.
Every Wednesday and Thursday.
No, it still is a wonderful movie. It's got a great story, great acting. It's fun to watch a movie about hockey. And you know what I did? I actually watched it on the last day of the Olympics. After I finished watching it, I actually looked at the clock and I was like, okay, I'm not having dinner for another 2 hours. I put Miracle on for the umpteenth time. Just because it was closed, just because the Winter Olympics were closing, and that's like one of my favorite sports films. I think it is my favorite sports film.
The new show on Disney Plus is actually really good.
Really? I didn't know what to think about it, because one of the few things that really left a sour taste in my mouth and my wife's was the Ducks are the bad guys.
Yeah,
I don't like that. I'm sorry, I don't like that.
The way they I don't it worked.
Okay.
Because like it was basically, I think the whole part of that was how they were able to get Gordon Bombay, because like he ended up going away from them or whatever, and then they essentially turned into the Hawks. And so with the new underdog team using Gordon Bombay's rink, he really saw like, oh, okay, this is what the Ducks were to me to begin with, and that's kind of when he kind of takes over. So it's going to be interesting season 2 because he's not coming back.
There is going to be a season 2?
There is a season 2. It's confirmed, and Bombay is not going to be in it.
But Lauren Graham will be back.
I believe so. Yeah, she's the main character.
Okay,
she's the main mom.
Okay, because I had heard nothing about it. Like, I knew it was coming out, but nobody talked about it. Nobody seemed to care about it, so I didn't really know what was going to happen to it. But
I watched it. Yeah. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And the episode where all of the old Ducks came back to like skate and like show them like, hey, you can have fun with this was a lot of fun.
Oh wow, they actually got them to come back.
Yeah, most of them, yes.
Wow. Even Averton?
I want to say there was like maybe 4 or 5 of them that came back. I forget which ones.
Okay.
But it was enough of them. Like there's pictures of them in their like in the jerseys like now, and like side-by-side shots. It was a lot of fun.
I was actually at a sports store a couple of months ago, and I actually saw a Mighty Ducks jersey in the store. Not the one that you're wearing. I'm talking about the one they wear in the first movie.
Yeah, like the green ones.
And it was a Conway jersey. I was like, you know what? If I actually had the money to spend, I would buy it, but I didn't.
I grabbed this from my room because it sits on, like, hangs on my dresser, but I actually have a Mighty Ducks duck call. I don't know where my parents found it. I don't know if we got it at a game somewhere. I really don't know, but I've had this the majority of my life.
I actually did see the Mighty Ducks play. My friends and I, we celebrated a friend's birthday, and we went to an Islanders game, and the Islanders were hosting the Ducks. And being a Rangers fan, of course, I didn't want the Islanders to win, and the Islanders didn't win, but I couldn't cheer for the Ducks, because if I did, I probably would have been pelted with batteries, because Islander fans are crazy, but not as crazy as Ranger fans. Okay, I've been to Rangers games at Madison Square Garden, and I absolutely, it's an experience. I will tell you, I've been to many New York sporting events, okay? I've gone to the Jets games and participated in the stadium-filled JTES, Jets, Jets, Jets chant with Fireman Ed leading the crowd, and it's incredible. But Rangers games at Madison Square Garden are truly one of the greatest sporting events that I've ever been at, because you know, even if they're not even playing the Islanders, the beginning of every period, the entire crowd just goes, Potvin sucks. That's just what Rangers fans do. It's great. It is fantastic. There's another thing that you did. You actually saw a stage show? Gina?
Yeah. So it's on YouTube. I watched it on Discord with a friend because I have never seen Oklahoma in any capacity. And it is my friend's favorite musical. And so he was like, you need to watch the stage show with Hugh Jackman. We're going to watch it. It's on YouTube. So we found it, and I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
That's great. That's great.
So I had no idea that they had recorded a stage version. Nevertheless, that Hugh Jackman was the star, but
well, my wife is a big Broadway fan, and we don't know when we're going to be able to go back, because you know we're obviously going to be dealing with a newborn soon. But with Hugh Jackman coming back to Broadway as Professor Hill in The Music Man, that's the one she really wants to see. And The Music Man, fun fact, is the very first live action film I ever watched with Robert Preston and Shirley Jones. So that's like a very nostalgic thing to me. And you also see, and I completely forgot, you saw Uncharted as well.
Yeah, I liked it.
I heard it's fun. I'm not interested in it, to be honest with you, but you know, it's Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland. I'm sure someone
exactly. It's Mark Wahlberg. It's Tom Holland. It's a fun action adventure flick with pirate ships.
Yeah, to circle back to where we started this whole evening, there were people that were saying this movie is terrible because there's not enough diversity in it, but nobody seems to care. The movie's making money regardless.
It's fun.
Yeah, exactly. So the only other two things that I have to share is a comic book and a comic book show. And I want Cammie to listen to this one because she's now officially diving into a specific comic book writer who goes by the name of Jeff Johns.
Yep, just purchased a nice plethora of his older material.
And I am not a fan of the CWDC shows, but my friend was insisting that I give Stargirl a shot, and it's on HBO Max. And he said to me, you'll probably like this one because Jeff Johns is a co-writer and a producer of the show. And considering the fact that he is responsible for one of my favorite comic book runs in DC, which is JSA, and I know that Cammie's got that on her to-read list, as does our friend Andy, this was great. You know, it's a CW show, yes, it involves teenagers being teenagers, but there was so much comic book feel to it. And not just that, Luke Wilson's in it, so can't complain about that.
I keep seeing
I'm sorry?
I kept seeing the advertisements for it in the Nice House on the Lake, like in every other one, so.
Yeah, I watched both seasons. I really powered through them. I absolutely loved the show. It was everything that I thought that Jeff Johns could ever make it a TV show, had the JSA in it. Also, a name that very few people even know, but don't even realize how iconic he is, Henry Thomas. Does anybody in this room know who that is? Elliot from E.T. He plays one of the members of the JSA. And I thought that that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, there was something, speaking of Henry Thomas, there were so many news articles back in 2002 because of the fact that he was going to be in his very first movie since E.T. And that movie was Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York. Yeah, I need to rewatch that one. I saw that one in the theaters and I never saw it since. The last thing that I have to talk about is a comic book called Ice Cream Man. I'm not going to go into any details, but I am just going to say this. For the horror fans out there, you will never experience horror as brilliant as Ice Cream Man. I cannot explain it. All I know is that it is everything from uncomforting to creepy to in-your-face grotesque. It is written by W. Maxwell Prince, who is responsible for some of the most brilliant pieces of comic book writing in the last 10 years. He has written King of Nowhere, 1 Week at the Library, and haha, Ice Cream Man is his only ongoing series. I did not pick up the floppies. I now have the first 3 trades. And let me just say this. Every single time I finish a trade, I want the next one and I want it now. This is something different. There is nothing I've ever read that reads like Ice Cream Man. I am not joking.
It's been recommended to me many times, and that's the same sentiment I get. Is it's very jarring, it's very vivid, it's very it just really leaves an impression on you. And they said if you're a horror fan and you haven't read this, you need to. So it's been on my list for a while. But
Yeah.
thanks to you, Steve, my list never stops growing, so I'll just fit it in with the other ones.
Hey, listen, you said you were running out of Funko Pop room. It's time to collect something new.
I had to make a whole shelf for these comic books that I said I wasn't going to collect, Stephen. So
Oh, I feel
thanks.
that.
Hey, you never had to buy them. I'm sorry that you're actually
No,
enjoying
but
yourself.
You do, because my Cosmicology subscription only is so vast. Again, here we go back to physical versus digital media. So yes, there are some things that are readily available through that subscription, but a lot of the things that I needed to go back and research and read and find from yesteryear are either really expensive digitally, or it just made sense to buy the physical copies because I knew I'd be reinvesting into the rereading of them again and again to kind of compare and contrast for other projects in the future. So it just made sense. And then too, like the Long Halloween, I mean, that's been on my radar since I couldn't even tell you how long, and I needed those covers. There's nothing that brings me more joy than looking at those 13 beautiful covers. So
Tim Sale is
and
great.
Dark
He's
Victory is
definitely
really
Yeah, I thought Dark Victory was pretty good. I really did enjoy the story very much. I did. But yeah, I'm not going to deny the fact that, you know, I'm buying more comics than I possibly could ever need. I mean, just this week alone, I came home from the comic book store on New Comic Book Day with 21 comics. It's a lot. And it took me about 3 hours to read everything because I kept getting interrupted. I had things to do around the house because my mother-in-law had just come to visit. So.
Do we have a date for Saga yet?
Actually, issue number 56 just came out yesterday.
Ooh, okay.
And 55 came out the month before. I actually bought myself a copy.
Okay, I did not know that.
I didn't even know I didn't even know you were reading it.
Oh, I've been waiting for the new one to come out for so long.
Let me ask you then, do you have the trade, or did you actually were one of the fortunate people to buy the floppies?
Nope, I have the trades.
Yeah, I only bought the 55th issue for the purposes of, you know, trying to get into all the hype of the big comeback, you know, just to have it.
Yeah.
I mean, my comic book store, the guys who manage it, they have a lot of pull. They have comic book signings. So maybe, you know, I'll, you know, cross my fingers. Maybe one day Brian K. Vaughan shows up to the store and I get that copy of the book signed. But I'm not picking up any of the new floppies. I'm just waiting for Trade Volume 10 to come out, and that's what I'm going to get. So I think that's going to wrap it up, guys. I think some of us are starting to look like we're about to fall asleep, and I think I'm going to be one of those people as well. But this was interesting. I'm really looking forward to our next episode because I'm very glad to know that Cammie chose the topic. We're going to be talking about banned books. And that's a very important thing to discuss right now. So much, in fact, that over on That's Comical, I haven't spoken to everybody in the group, but I'm hoping that we will all buddy read and review Mouse. I think it's a very important thing to start. Mouse, did you? Okay.
It's such a good book.
I know,
both of them.
Did you actually, I think I told some of the group, I think these ladies know, but if not, I know Cammie knows. Do you know the very interesting thing about Art Spiegelman, besides the fact that he wrote Mouse?
Maybe.
He's the co-creator of Garbage Pail Kids.
Oh yeah, I think I did know that.
Yeah, my wife and
that's
I
fun.
went to an Art Spiegelman exhibit in New York City. I think it was 2 years into us dating, and there were Garbage Pail Kids things on display, and I was like, no way he made these.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. But yeah, Mouse is a great story. I'm really
Mhm.
looking forward to having this discussion. You know, literally the funny thing was Cammie just called me up and asked me if it was okay. I was like, Cammie, the fact that you are bringing a topic idea and the fact that I am not doing all of this makes me so happy. I want everybody to contribute. I really do.
That's a subject that's near and dear to my heart. And I
I
think
agree.
that sometimes we get lost in the shuffle because people think that it just happens so often, but books get banned every single year.
Mhm.
And so it's a really important topic to talk about because I don't think we talk about it enough.
And we will. But in the meantime, everybody, I really hope that you enjoyed. Don't forget to leave a comment in the box below. And if you want to see anything else that happens over here, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're up to date with all of our latest content. But in the meantime, everybody, I think that's going to call it a night for everyone. So listen, just stay positive and stay safe, and we will all see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the video you just watched, feel free to leave a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to be up to date with our latest videos. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.